Hello, my most amazing artists. Today we're going to create art like artist Georges Seurat, who is a French draftsman and painter interested in the science behind art. He produced many paintings and used a technique he founded called pointillism, in which tiny contrasting dots of colors are placed side by side on the canvas. If you look up close, the painting appears as individual dots, but when viewed from a distance, the eye mixes the colors into a whole entirely new scene. His masterpiece, Sunday Afternoon on the Island of Le Grand Jatte, is a huge work painted entirely using this method. Along with pointillism, Seurat's experimentation with, you guessed it, color baby color, brought new ideas and concepts to the art world. He felt color could create harmony and emotion in painting, similar to how a musician creates harmony in music. So let's find out what we need for our lesson today. You can use a variety of art materials. Crayons or markers are fine, along with something to trace that's circular, like a cup or a lid. Also, something to do the tracing with, like a Sharpie or a pencil. What's optional is whatever kind of paint you have, and this called a Q-tip, which is often found in your family's bathroom. So whatever you have available is what you can use to create your art today. But before we begin, let's talk about these beautiful colors on the color wheel. The color wheel is an instrument that artists use in order to make their paintings come to life and to create that harmony that Georges Seurat was talking about. So let's take a look at what we're going to be focusing on today. We're going to be focusing on complementary colors. Complementary colors are colors that are across from each other on the color wheel. For example, yellow and purple are complementary colors. They are across from one another on the color wheel. Red and green are complementary colors because they are, yes, you guessed it, across from one another. And finally, orange and blue are complementary colors because they are also opposite on the color wheel. Now remember, this is a basic color wheel. When there's more colors, the same rule applies. Different shades of different colors are also complementary when they are across from one another on the color wheel. But we're going to be using these basic shapes today, and I even arranged my paint palette to look like, you guessed it, a color wheel. So you can see how all of the complementary colors are across from one another. I'm going to be using a Q-tip as well to create the pointillism, or the tiny dots of color that Georges Seurat was so famous for. Okay, let's talk composition. We're inspired by some of the winter scenes that we are finding all around us in our homes, outdoors, in stores, wherever you happen to go. So what you're going to do to start this lesson is you're going to create a composition of branches, and we're going to create some beautiful ornaments that are hanging from those branches. So let's start in the middle of my paper. I'm holding like a bathtub. So remember, bathtub is kind of the window or the fat way, tall, skinny way, shower. I'm doing the bathtub today. Okay. Now we're going to start in the middle and just make a diagonal heading upward. And the same thing on this side. I'm going to start making a diagonal and this one head a bit to the center. I don't want them to meet necessarily because we want to create a sense of two different branches in two different spaces. Now what we're going to do is use either a cup that you can trace either the top or the bottom, or a lid. So I happen to have this little blue lid here that I'm going to use. And I need to have at least 3 ornaments today because we're going to be talking complementary colors. If you want to make a bonus ornament, that's up to you. All right, 1 I'm going to put over here. I might put another a little bit higher up in the center, and 1 more I'm going to place a little bit lower. I'm going to try to vary the placement and the shapes for all of my ornaments so that my composition is interesting. Okay, now I have my 3 shapes, my 2 branches. I'm going to add a small little rectangle on the top of each, and then a letter J. Same thing over here, small little rectangle, letter J, small little rectangle, upside down letter J. So now you can kind of get the feel for what we're creating. Next, we're going to use varied colors of green to create some beautiful evergreen branches. So all I did was round up as many different shades of green, including crayons, whatever I had available. And I'm going to mix all those things together to make some really fluffy looking evergreen branches. So I'm going to start simply by making letter V, letter V, letter V all the way along the branch. And I do the same thing on this side. And this time my letter V's are facing the opposite way. So the pointed part of the V should always be facing down. Now I'm going to do the same thing with another shade of green. This is kind of a blue green on, it's the color that's right next to green and also next to blue on the color wheel. We have secondary colors, which are created by all of your primary colors. And then you have tertiary colors, which are created by mixing the secondary colors. Okay, so now I have my branches start to come to life a bit. I'm just going to create some more deep shades of green. I'm even going to add some crayon in there. It's kind of what we call mixed media, when you blend lots of different items together to create your artistic effect. Okay, so these are looking pretty good. Remember, you want to vary the lines. Some of them can be a little bit longer. You can repeat colors. I've already used this one, but you can see I wanted to make some of my lines a little bit longer. There we go. I'm happy with that. So now let's get on to talking about color. So we're going to be making complementary ornaments today. So one of my ornaments is going to be complements. It could be any of these combinations, but I'm going to choose red and green to start with. So if you're using markers, you're simply going to know you want to kind of keep half of your ornament for the other color. And you also want to make sure that you are using pointillism, which is that dotting of color. So I'm just going to hold my marker straight up and down and just stamp. So it's kind of fun, a new and interesting way of creating color and shape. So if you're using markers, you would keep going until that is all filled in. If you are using paint, either watercolor or craft paint, these Q-tips are a great way to create pointillism dots. So you can see here, my dots are a little bit bigger, but they fill in the same way. And it just creates some of those unique effects of tiny dots of color. Now on the other half of my ornament is going to be the complement. So we want green. So again, if you're using a marker, you simply take your marker, hold it up straight and stamp. If you're using paint, you can do the same thing. And you can see how your complements really make the other color pop. So when you're creating artwork, thinking about your colors can help really emphasize what you are trying to make. So there's my first one. So now you're going to do the same thing for the other two complements, again, using markers and or paint. You can do yellow and blue, orange and blue together, or yellow and purple together, and you will have your completed set of ornaments. If you want to create a bonus one where you're doing the whole color wheel, or you're trying some other combinations, you're the artist. I can't wait to see what you create. Don't forget, keep on creating.